All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very, very special episode of Big Time the Podcast. We thought last week was big, bringing video into it. We're going live right now. We're going live all across the internet, all across the world right now. And we got a very, very fun episode planned for you guys tonight. Last week, we did a fantasy basketball draft for 4K Local Legends. It was a bit of a niche episode. We're going to expand upon that. So we got the same cast of guys back along with one very, very special guest. Tonight's episode, we are doing a Fort Kent High School fantasy soccer draft with the same cast as last week. And I mentioned our very special guest. And we got Fort Kent soccer coach legend Dave Minzy joining us on the podcast as well for tonight's episode. So we're gonna kick off with Coach Minzy. Coach, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Things have been going great, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
I know all these guys are fired up and happy to have you on here. These are all guys that played for you, so we're just going to introduce our cast of characters for tonight as well. Once again, back, I think it is third or fourth appearance now. We got Laughn Berthiaume checking in from Gorm. Laughn, how are you tonight?
Great. Glad to be back.
Lucas making his third appearance. Lucas, how are things in Georgia?
Can't complain. It was 80 degrees today, and enjoying the time off.
I was going to say, you got a nice tan. You're the one guy with a tan in this group. We got from Scarborough. We got one of the executive producers of the show. We got Ethan Raymond checking in. Ethan, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
And we saved the best for last, the original big timer, the reason why the show's called Big Time. Dressed and ready to go all the way out from Halifax, Nova Scotia. We got Coach Charlie. Charlie, how are you doing tonight?
What's going on, world? I apologize if I say anything unprofessional. It's just how I roll. No holds barred. Let's have some fun.
Real quick, what's with the suit?
I thought this was we're going professional on this one. Everyone else went casual, but that's not how I roll. Money in the bank.
Good to know. All right, so as we mentioned, Coach Minzy actually coached all these guys here, but this is his first time on the podcast. He's a name that's come up very, very frequently in terms of someone we'd love to get on. So real quick, we're just going to chop it up with Coach Minzy real quick and get some background here. So you coached all these guys. Real quickly, when did you actually begin your coaching career? And was Fort Kent your first head coaching gig?
Yeah, absolutely. I started teaching in Fort Kent in 1980. And I assisted the other varsity coach, Terry Carpenter, who had coached there for approximately 30 years. So I started under him probably in 85 and took over as head coach in 87 and coached all the way up until 2003. So I've had a large cast of all of you guys, all you players. But over the years, I've been fortunate to have a lot of players come through, and they're all over the place now, all over the country.
Absolutely. As highlighted on this podcast, we got these guys spread out all over the place. So one of the first things I want to do here before we actually get into the draft and get into tonight's episode, I want you to give me your opinion or your take on all these former players here. So real quick, what can you tell us about Laughn Berthiaume as a player, his style? What's the rundown on Laughn?
Well, Lonnie was probably my one and only All-American. He was, I think, in his senior year, he was closing in on the scoring leader. He had the most goals, also had probably the most minutes, and not only had he made accolades in All-State, all New England, but he was, if I'm correct, he was like one vote away from being the All-American that year. So probably one of the highest players that we've had come out of Fort Kent.
Was he coachable? I mean, did all those things go to his head? Or
it definitely went to his head. You had to take him out of the game every once in a while just to let him know that he was normal.
Probably would have got All-American if Coach Minzy would have voted for him. But.
Yeah, that was the one vote. That was, by the way, the one vote that didn't get him the All-American. But
all right. So Lonnie was class of '94, and then we got Lucas here, class of '97. What's the take on Lucas here?
Lucas, probably a lot of people don't know that his nickname is Lucas Levesque, and got the winning goal down in Foxcroft, and came out in the paper the very next day that Lucas Levesque won the game. But Lucas was again,
Levesque.
a scoring threat, and he always was one of the top players, captain from all those years. Very, very good player.
All right.
He led the league
right,
in
Lucas?
being
Is that
called
pretty accurate?
offsides too.
What's that?
He led the league in being called offsides too.
Called offside. Yeah, that's right.
All
He
right.
had that down pat.
Cherry
Any
picking.
any
Oh,
defense there, Lucas? You want to defend yourself, or is that accurate?
No, I was the granddaddy of them all, cherry picker. I was allergic to defense, high school, college, the whole 9 yards.
All right.
So, yeah, no, I ain't disputing that.
And then we're gonna keep it rolling here in chronological order. Then we got Charlito, class of 2001, who was the king of the offsides trap, right, Charles?
That is correct. It's a lethal weapon.
So, Coach Minz, what's your take on Charlie?
Charlie Bard, probably without a question, I've said this before and I'll say it again, is probably my best sweeper back that I've ever coached. He not only knowledgeable wise, he had everything down as far as we used to run offsides traps. That's when it was really, really big and in the league to run traps. And Charlie had his group ready to go and always did the right thing. So very skilled, and he could play forward, he could play back, but it was always a best thing to have him play back because I always knew that things were locked down back there and things were pretty sure. And he worked very well with the goalkeeper also. So things went very well with Charlie in the backfield.
And you might not know it now with the head of hair Charlie has now, but Charles had a full head of hair in high school. Did that bother you at all? Charlie's flamboyant blonde locks back in the day, was that an issue, or are you okay with that?
Valderrama style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's kind of a hard comparison now, isn't it?
All right.
Hey, you can't forget that Charlie is the only guy we've ever seen score off a corner kick in a game, high school game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Max right there. All right, so then moving on to our last guy on the panel here, class of 2004, the pride of Wallagrass, Maine. What's your take on Ethan here?
Well, Ethan was a great protege. He started early, came through the feeder program as probably one of the better players. Started going to camps at an early age, doing very well at Colby, and did extremely well there, and became probably one of the better players that we've had. We came through with a few good players that were in his league, but he was a leader for sure, and was always a scoring threat up front. So it was I actually put him down as one of my best players on my fantasy team just because of his caliber of play.
Wow, Ethan, how does that make you feel right there?
I'm honored. Appreciate that, man.
All right,
That must be his fantasy Wallagrass team.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. The all strip road team.
Yeah. So before we get into our draft here, we're just going to go over the rules here. So we are going to try to keep it civil here. We're going to try to keep things calm and collective. Just a few rules. So what we're going to do here is for the first 6 picks, and guys, I'm not really a soccer guy here. I'm going to admit it. There's 11 players on the field, including the goalie, right?
Right.
All right. So the first 6 picks are going to be made by players only from your era. So your freshman through senior year teams, you can only pick guys that you play with for your first 6 picks. Doesn't have to be based on position. You can just draft best available. But by the end of this draft, you need to have a player drafted at every position. There are a couple of you guys where you guys overlap by year. So if in the first 6 picks, if there is someone who is claimed by more than one person, we'll just have a coin flip to decide who gets that person. So first 6 picks should go really quick. And then after that, we're going to have a draft lottery. We're going to find out the draft order for the remaining 5. And those last 5 picks, you can draft anybody from any era. So that's when things are going to get interesting. And we got the man who coached all of them. We got Coach Minzy here, who's going to be our draft expert, give us some feedback on some of these picks, and maybe tell a story or two. So before we get into it, I just want to ask Coach Minzy here, if you're building a team, what's your approach? Do you build around your defense? Do you build around a good goalkeeper? Do you want someone who can score the ball? What would be your approach in drafting a team here?
I always went from the back to the forward. So I always went goalkeeper first. and then my backs were always the next step in line. My midfield and forwards, I could always fill in because we had a lot of very talented, fast, and strong players. But the big thing was for me to always defend well. So I always went with goalkeeper backs. That was the very first thing for me to put together.
All right. So I see. I didn't see anyone jotting down notes. It didn't look like you guys were taking some advice here. It sounds like you guys are ready to go. How much research and time did you guys put into this? I'll start with Laughn. How much time and effort went into this right here?
Yeah, I had to get prepared. One of the things about the format of this is we sort of leave out the group before the 90s or before 1990, and then after 2003. And so I was on the horn this week, and I made a few phone calls. I talked to a few people, and I wanted to get some insight into those legends that came before the 90s.
All right, Lucas, how about you? What's your approach? How much research did you do? Did you make some phone calls, trades lined up? What are you thinking for this draft here?
Yeah, I just tried to dig in a little bit to the 80s, 70s, and 80s, really, to figure out who I might have missed or overlooked. So, I probably took about an hour to go through everything and reminisce about the good old days with my group, and then figure out the open draft era is going to be interesting. So I'm excited for it.
Real quick, how many of your teammates reached out to you saying, "Hey, pick me up, make me one of your draft picks"? How many guys reached out to you?
Dave Sussy blocked me for since I drafted Eric Gardner ahead of him in pickup basketball. So Dave's on my shit list a little bit, but for the most part, I'm still communicating now. Whether I still have friends after this draft, that will be determined at a later date.
All right. We'll keep moving in chronological order here based on years. Charles, you look serious. I mean, you're definitely dressed for the part. How much time and effort did you put into this here?
I got some surprises that are going to blow some minds here tonight. So I don't know if I should just expose it now. We're going to wait till it's my turn, but no matter how much work these guys put in, I'm going to one up here. But I'll just wait for my time to shine.
Don't expose anything, Charlie.
I think the biggest surprise here is that you didn't ask us to push this till 8. I know Jeopardy's on right now, and that's kind of your thing, so I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Getting too easy now there. I'm kind of maxed out.
Probably a rerun. He's already seen it.
Yeah. All right, and then Ethan, what's the thought process here for you? What are you thinking in terms of how you're going to build your team? How much research did you put into it? What's the strategy here?
Well, my era was pretty easy. We had some standouts, so I was able to fill up the front line pretty well, but struggled for the defensive portion. And I'm the furthest removed from some of these older squads, so it might have been a little more difficult for me to tap into that older demographic there. But luckily, I got a couple olderly Eric. I got a broken arm and a fractured skull too. But
that's right. That's exactly.
He's got a lot of.
Some great keepers all the way through, but this particular guy was a 3-sport athlete, a 3-sport teammate of mine, one of my great friends. I'm going Chad Bushy. He's my friend, but I'm going Chad Bushy.
Goalie, number 1.
Solid.
Coach Min's initial reaction with that pick right there, is that a solid number 1 pick?
Yeah, absolutely. Good, solid number 1 pick. He'll go into a team supper. So it was unfortunate for him in his last season to have a broken collarbone, but he was definitely an outstanding goalkeeper.
The coach with the draft strategy. Let's see feeling about Laughn's team so far here.
Well, Lonnie's picked probably the first 3-4 guys that I had.
And so I jumped up over and I just avoided that collision. And Tim Desjardins grabbed me by my shirt and he said, "Don't you ever jump over him again. Next time you kick him in the fucking head," and whether good or bad. But I'm going Timmy Desjardins, one of the toughest players I played with.
Is that an All right, Laughn, your 5th pick. Who are you going with?
All right, so 5th pick. This guy wasn't a flush beats on somebody, he'd team in, and he was a guy that he wasn't going to
Close out your the last pick of your first 6 here. Who are you going to round out from your era?
Yeah, so I'm going back to a classmate of mine. This guy was sometime.
Lonnie made some really, really good picks here.
All right, and I also couldn't help but notice that Lonnie was the one who was get on all week long. Is that what's going on here?
You know what?
Sounds like he's got some insider info
that's
here.
one of the things we didn't talk about. Is I didn't really ask him about guys.
All right, we're gonna move on to Lucas here. So, class of '97. Charles
Laughn
was
was able to analyze the game from the pretty well.
Lucas, what was your boost that comes to mind?
Talking me?
Yeah.
And, we were arguing about ourselves, and Minzy goes, "Get to the pool, get to the pool," and we're like, "Oh shit! Why we walk all the way to the pool?" Where, you know, we were ahead, coach really playing great. You know, that was kind of the moral of the story is, you know, I don't care who we're playing, whether we're up by 2 or 5 or 10, we're going to play to the best that we were doing what we needed to do, and Minzy didn't think that we were playing as good as we should have, so he blistered us, and
I'm curious. I mean, you went on and had a coaching career yourself, still doing it, and obviously, when you coach, you kind of take things from coaches you had. Did you blister your female?
I molded my coaching coach Minzy. I mean, I had a more passion for soccer probably than I did basketball, but you know, I'll be honest, I had some pretty lousy college coaches, and but you know, Minzy was the reason why I while you're playing. So there's a lot of good coaching moments and things that I learned from Coach Minzy.
You got 7 national championships to show for it. So I mean, you learned something. But we'll see how well you can draft a fantasy soccer team. Who you got? Who you going with your pick? Your era would have been what? Your freshman year was 94 to 97.
Toughness to him. That was a really, really underrated star with this group.
And Coach Minzy, did you teach physical? Was physical something that you wanted your players to play, or did you just happen to have a bunch of tough guys?
Part of that came from, you know,
Of our season, and I think it was probably like our sophomore year. Against Eric. So I'm sure he's a decent guy, but he was an arrogant douche. We were, and him and Brad were exchanging the game, and he gets in his face, and again, this guy's 2 years older. You know, their best player by far, and next thing you know, Brad's chasing him full speed ahead, like chasing him around the field. The referees are like running to try to break it up, but that was Brad's way Brad on my team, and he turned himself into a goal scorer, rock solid in goal. I know he stepped in when Chad got hurt, and as a young
by anyone, he could throw the basketball was his love, but you never knew it by watching him play soccer, because he would play every game like that was his one and only sport, and it was just a tribute to his playability. So
Picks here, Lucas. You got 2 more era draft. Who else are you gonna go with number 5?
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going tough guy again. I'm going Motor. This guy is not the most back player on the track team. He was a state championship wrestler. Had a phenomenal motor to him. I mean, nothing would face this guy. He's somebody who I was doing that against because he never quit and was tough as nails. So I'll take Richard Plord on my team for soccer, and if a fight breaks out any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I sort of agree with the Richard Plord being a tough guy. He's out of it.
Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, and John Lozier.
Nice job.
Charlie, 8 to 2000 for soccer.
2001. With a little more fine tuning. I played with a lot of soccer kid all around. His right foot was one of my best holds up, and he stays healthy. But Aaron Willett, the big O, little bit of college.
Front, both Kirk and Cody, and really good skills. Kirk was a master of putting the ball on the floor and keeping it on the low corner, so that was really good. Cody just had a big recruit. A lot of colleges down here wanted him. St. Joe's came up to see him a couple of times, and he's in the air. And another thing, there was too many people that could match up with him winning balls out of the air with his head. He scored a lot of goals and a lot of winning goals. One being against Van Buren at home, a ball out of the air, and he won and took us to the playoffs that year with a heading ball. So he's a good player.
All right, Charles, your number.
Together. Nobody has looked at my butt more than this fella, Nick Thibodeau.
And let's just go ahead and see who your last pick is in your era. Okay, so we have a conflict here, so we got to get this settled. So Lucas picked John, so did Charles, and you know what? I didn't grab a coin. Stand by for 1 second. We're gonna get this settled here.
Hey, let's just do the old Minzy. All I got a minute to. I got to give some love to Minzy, by far the most knowledgeable coach I ever played with. Thanks for everything, all these guys.
Appreciate
yes,
it.
sir.
So we got to settle the John Lozier argument here in a second, but before we do, I just want to get Minz's take on Charlie's era. So Charlie, your senior year, you guys finished number one in class.
They were just frustrated, and they would be in Holton. Sure, he was a timid. He could throw it really good.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Charles and Lucas here. We're gonna see who gets ready.
We're gonna
Team name.
It's coming up here. So
the young guy in the totem pole here, because my open there, man, I crossed out a lot of names. You guys chose some good names, and yeah, Charlie, we're gonna have to do a couple battles here. Play together. They're from JJ Panett. He's not somebody that's went on to be a great keeper. It was just, I mean, Martinez. He played a few games, and then I don't know, Minz, you might be able to chime in on why, but he had to get shut down to the JV team and absolutely humiliated some JV squads out there for the rest of the year. So.
Yeah, it was all part of that. Was all fine, but under the MPA rules, they'd already graduated, so that made them eligible to play varsity sports, which I thought was BS. I had him. It's funny you picked him, Ethan, because I had him down as one of my starting 11. This guy was incredible, and you remember that. I mean, his first day on the field, and it was just really, really that good. And I had a good chance. I coached him when I was at UMF. Charlie played with him. But he scored incredible goals at the college level that year. So yeah, really, really good player.
All right. So Ethan's up. Who you got, Ethan?
Fourth pick. So I mean, we got a couple conflicts here. I'm not going to
Appreciate that.
All right.
so that's another football team. Just an enforcer, and we were going to be losing. I think we were down 2 goals, and he took out his frustrations, just ran full steam, absolutely out.
Disputes here to figure out. So first one is for Anthony Lamar. Coach, who do you want to call it? Do you want Ethan or Charles to call it?
Well, Ethan gets called.
Charlie, call.
Yeah. So I get to keep Cody. My next in line, I had Tank, Corey Burgoyne, so that sucks. I'm gonna have to go with the man with the largest calf muscles of all time, John Smith.
But I ended up going with Corey just because he's so big and fast. I'm gonna put probably he might even be faster than Cody. Maybe the one person that's fast, athletic guy to get down. Our boy Carson Hartman.
The Black Stallion.
Wayne.
Wow.
Black Stallion.
All right. We got Corey Tibbs. We got Nick Tibbs. We got Dareplo. Coached a bunch of great goalies.
Yeah, and I being a goalkeeper myself, and that's how I also years of just great goalkeeping, just from that aspect. And I mean, that's what we surrounded ourselves with. Even really good
harder than Coach Minz himself, man.
No mercy.
To the wall all the time, and
Those early guys, they would run right.
What was that?
With the 4th with the Lucas.
All right.
All right.
All right. So the draft picks to make here. Laughn, Charles, Ethan. And then Ethan, Charles, Laughn, Lucas, in that order here to fill out your roster. Anything goes at this point. There's no any error at this point. Some of these picks here, so we'll get to it with the 7th pick. Lucas, who are you going with? Open era.
I think I'm going to go with probably
the guy that scored 70 goals, 40 assists in high school. Is an all New England player. Went on to play at USM. I'm going with Carl Labby.
Ooh, nice choice right there.
Carl was the name on the top of the list, along with Tommy Pelletier. I mean, those were really the 2 guys in the 70s that were the most.
All right.
And I played summer leagues and restates there.
Charles, who are you going with for your 7th open?
Holy shit!
2 hours worth of work last night, boy. Yes. I'm going to take a picture. We'll get this online for the viewers at home.
That's unbelievable.
I've heard the tale that he was a soccer player. In talking to him the other night, he said I was so good I used to pass to myself. I'm
Here, I don't think he's good at
You're worried about playing.
I penciled myself in on all the lists. It's like everybody was too shy to say my name, so I just threw my name on their list for them.
Generous of you. All right.
Unbelievable.
We got to keep it moving here.
Yeah.
Right.
He had a lot of good scoring opportunities. He was just a solid his attitude. Those were that was the front line. I did right down in yellow. I mean, all those guys were classic times during their reign, and always came up short. And it was always for some crazy reason. One year, that was the fill on with them for sure.
I don't know Raymond Bouchard.
That's a good pick.
That is a good pick. That is a good pick. I was.
Wow.
Okay.
Love it.
Let's hear it, Coach Minzy. Feedback on Berthiaume.
We're still trying to fix the goals in Fort Kent from him running into them.
Okay. Great pick, Charles. I like that. We're going to go back to Laughn for your 8th pick. Who are you going with?
Okay, so this guy, when we played some the closing, if there was a ball that was
Hanford Plord.
Good pick.
His name is almost on every one of these lists, so he must have been legit back in the day.
yeah.
Yeah, Coach. Can you elaborate on Hanford?
Yeah, and he was always a scouting threat. Every time we used to play him, everything came out where you got to be cautious about Danford. He just
Good front. I think he might actually. He was legit. Big personality. and Lozier and John Lozier and Paul. We should be able.
power. He's got boxing ability. He's got everything in there. Yeah. By the way, Paul Marquis has been my only player ever to score a goal off of a bike.
About 100 of them.
He did. He made one.
All right, we're going back to Laughn with your 9th overall selection here. We're going to see if you're going to research here.
I didn't have to do much research for, but I do need some guys in the back. So this guy's a tough guy. I actually went to Europe with him on a.
You're the best name on the list so far, too.
I'm excited to hear this guy's still available. I'm gonna have to go with
Playing grad soccer with him, is that correct?
Yeah, we played. I got to play in '88. Levesque. I mean, all these guys were really, really solid. So, yeah, they're just. Yeah, Dennis was an all not an All-American. He was an All New England player when he was in high school. So graduating class,
nice.
we end up with those guys. You had hopefully good goalkeeping. You had all kinds of the things that just make great teams, and I think we went undefeated year after year after year. And then finally won the States in '87.
He's a good pick, but I'm going with Minzy right here. So of course, Jared McBride.
Oh, okay.
St. Francis.
Yep. Good pick.
St. Francis.
I'm gonna go back to my era actually. Do some atomic sit-ups. I don't know if anybody remembers those atomic sit-ups. I'm gonna go with Jared Boucher for a defensive back.
Ah, nice.
We got a big old summer party last week.
Still around. I need a big.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I had
Still before my time. Lamar.
Wow.
We got our first father-son
Great pick.
combination. We got Anthony. What's the take on Glenn Lamar here?
Glenn used to come down to my practice. That was when Anthony was playing also, but he just had so much great insight. He used to work on my players and showing the mechanics of how they can shoot harder, quicker, stronger, things like that. Keeping him the volunteer, and he did that. I don't know how many weeks.
I mean, he was he was a three.
I'm gonna go Tom Levesque. I think Tom was pretty speedy, very well skilled, and kid who will be a nice addition.
Round, some nice pick, Lucas.
I'm going. I think
Yeah, he's already picked.
He's already taken.
Yeah,
who
Lonnie's
got
got him.
Lonnie got.
Man, I fell asleep on that one. All right. Well, now
I think
I'm
you
gonna go. Now
sacrificed
I'm
your
really
pick.
going to go. Same sarcasm. Guy who, from what I understand, again, is a little older than me, but very good individual. Was
leaning up against the goal. Terry Carpenter was leaning up against the goal. It was a really cold night. And Charlie, we were doing a shooting practice, and I don't know why Coach Carpenter decided to lean up against the goal, but Charlie unloaded a shot from outside the 18 and hit him so hard in the head. He never saw it coming. Hit him so hard in the head that knocked him back about 6 feet. And for about 2 hours after that, he had a brine tattoo right on his forehead. And it was just a real funny story. That was the truth, but he just had an incredible shot. So Charlie,
Can you imagine that these guys were talking about playing with today's technology in a soccer ball, the magic that they would have created?
Yeah,
What a difference.
Yeah, don't forget those soccer balls were all plastic panel, and at about 28 degrees during those practices, that thing was brick hard. So it hit him pretty good. So.
All right, we're coming back to Laughn. Your last pick here. Who you going with?
Yeah, before I get to that, I'm just going to say this. I remember those brine balls because when you're a freshman and you make the varsity team, you're in the wall at the end of practice when you're practicing free kicks. So I remember those goddamn brine balls. If you ever wanted to jump up into that starting team or show some value, you just had to take one. You couldn't move. If you duck, man, you're never getting off the bench.
You can't.
So
that's how we built
I'll also say this: some of these guys that are picked here at the end, Charlie, Paul, Chris Lozzi. I mean, it's just because none of them played with the team captains, or these guys would all be very, very high picks, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
No doubt.
My last pick. Now we're going by position, so I need to go back to get a defender, and I played with this guy, solid, tough. Basketball teammate of mine as well. And again, when you can grow that mustache when you're in 4th and 5th grade, I mean, you're going to be a force out there. So I'm going with Brad Courier.
So Brad's been mentioned a lot on this podcast with some of the other guys. It's always about his facial hair, but Coach, what can you tell us about Brad Courier? Everyone wants to bring up the mustache, but talk to us about the player.
Yeah, that's all true. I mean, he 4th grade had to do a full shave, but as far as toughness, he was always solid, always, first to the ball. He always won the 50-50 ball. We always had a really good result with him. He kind of controlled and owned midfield. So it was good with him there for sure.
All right. So moving along in our draft, going to Big Bro Charlito, your last pick. You've got 1,000 names to choose from here.
I know. Oh my God, you're gonna smash up right from me. I am gonna go on a limb and go with a Mr. Bert Boucher.
Okay.
On my list.
We'll get 2 Bouchers in the draft today.
So Charles, real quick, just curious, what would you've done all this research, you got this big board. Do you even know what Bert Boucher's FIFA ranking would be? Do you even know what his rating would be? Or are you just guessing at this point?
All I've heard him tell me many times is they did go to the state finals and they lost in corner kicks. So not many teams can say that. But he's played on a state championship team, so I mean, he'll shut Jared down, hands down.
Yeah.
It's better than Jared.
I think he's the one that taught the atomic sit-up.
Bert is one guy that back in the day, I would love to go back and and hang out with college or high school Bert. I think that would be a good time.
No doubt.
We're coming to Ethan here for the last pick in the draft. The NFL draft calls him Mr. Irrelevant. Are you going to make it irrelevant? Are you going to make it a good pick? Are you going to go pick the last Bushi on the board to go get Casey?
No, we've done Casey dirty enough here in the last couple podcasts. Let's ease up on him for one day. Steve gave me another good name. I need to fill a left defensive back. That's my last position on the board here. He gave me another good name with Justin Marquis. He was a stopper. I don't feel right picking him because I never seen him play. I don't even know who he is. So I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go with a fella that I grew up with, one of my oldest friends. He stopped playing soccer sophomore year because he started working instead. He needed to make some money for the family. And he would have been somebody that I think would have been an absolute standout. He's just one of the most athletic kids I know. He's a big body. He was smart. He saw the field well. He was really good at basketball as well. Somebody that could play all over the field. Ben Bouchard. And I know Minzy will know this name because he repeatedly asked me to try to convince Ben to stay on the team and to keep playing and you get the rest of your life to work, play sports. But ultimately he chose the work life. But man, Ben Bouchard was probably one of the best soccer players I ever played with. I think he would be a perfect fit in our team.
Okay. So that's the last pick in the draft. We're going to do a couple things before we get up out of here. We got to pick a winner, but we also need to hear Coach Minzy's all-time team. And then we're going to go through that first. So I got a couple things planned. We're going to go through Coach Minzy's all-time team. We're going to rattle out the team names that we just drafted, have them pick a winner. And then you guys are going to put the theory to the test here. Can a really great coach any team to victory? You guys are going to pick a team for Coach Minzy, and we'll see if he could actually coach that team to victory. So that's how we're going to close it out. So
shit.
That's coming up. So first things first, I want to go through Coach Minzy's all-time team here, and I'm sure ears are percolating right now. I know these guys are probably percolating. Charles is nervous as hell right now. He's sweating through his suit. Go ahead. You can take the jacket off at this point, Charles.
Oh, loosen up the collar, Charlie.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah. So, Coach Minzy, the floor is yours. We want to hear your all-time Fort Kent team. Guys, do you want to keep to the players he coached, or can it be all-time Fort Kent? What do you guys think?
His
Coach.
call.
Coached.
Yeah, what I did is I put together during my era.
Okay, we'll go with that.
So I went with my era, and I'll be right up in front and honest with you. If I had if I could have gone way back, I definitely would have included the Carl Labbies, Tom Pelletiers, but I didn't. I put together just what I had. So starting out of the back, I went with Nick Thibodeau in the goal.
Wow.
I went with Charlie Bard for sweeping.
Charlie.
And I went with
Charlie.
I went with Travis Delisle, and believe it or not, I put Ethan Raymond back on my right back.
Wow. All right. So I got a couple questions before we proceed here. So Travis Delisle was not a name picked by anybody else. What was it about Travis that makes your all-time team here?
Travis Delisle, I don't know if the guys who played with him, but he was a Steve Jalbert. He was big, tall, strong, out of the air, winning 50-50 balls. His winning attitude, I think his team attitude was something that he just did not want to be denied. And I always really appreciated that as a coach, that somebody just put their head down and they would get the job done no matter what you wanted. So I put Travis in there as a back just because he was a strong defender.
Real quick, also curious, why'd you put Ethan out back? And Ethan, are you upset with being demoted to defense? I mean, I feel like you want to be up front. What's going on here?
Not at all. I'm honored to be on one of Minzy's teams, man.
All right, so Coach, what's the thought process with moving Ethan out back?
Well, because usually in the early years, you went with big, strong, sometimes slower players that they would win the ball or be able to play the ball big time up the field. And I decided if I was going to go with a fantasy team, I'd want fast, skilled players coming out of the backfield that could overlap and get up forward and score. And Ethan was obviously a good goal scorer. So being able to have that speed in the back really made a big difference putting together.
I did spend a lot of time in the 4-4-2 overlapping wing back there. So
right. So
and then real quick, want to touch on Charles. Charles, you must be fucking thrilled right now to me. I can see the tears coming out of your eyes right now.
I'm happy about that, but Ethan playing defense scares the fuck out of me, man. I'm gonna have to pick up so much slack. Me and Travis are gonna be rocking dude up. Ethan's gonna be like, "What do I do? What do I do?"
No, I'm definitely gonna be. I'll definitely be hanging up there, trying to score as many goals as I can, and sprinting back on defense for sure.
And then Charles, are you okay with keeping Travis in line back there too?
Oh, absolutely. I never played soccer with him, but I'm sure that we get along just fine. And I'm very surprised with the Nick Tibbs pick. That's a huge honor for my goalkeeper. Nick and I played 6 years together, maybe 7. So very honored to have my keeper in there too. Good pick, Minz.
Yeah, and Coach,
Tibbs is unreal.
What was the thought process
keeper.
of going with Tibbs? We mentioned all the great goalkeepers you had. What was it about Nick?
I think just that era was magical for us. Really, I think we had a lot of great wins. And I kind of took Nick under my belt. We went to camps early. He went to USM camps, went to Kobe. He was just a sponge. He really absorbed everything that was happening and became really developed into a great goalkeeper. So was his brother, Corey. He watched people like Sean St. Peter and Chad Bushy. He was just, I think he was a observer of the game and put it into his own. He became just a real classy goalkeeper. And I thought he would be a great keeper to start us off for a fantasy team.
All right.
And it's because Minz talked to Carla and Gary, and that's their favorite son. So they people.
That's true. That's all true.
All right, we're gonna keep the picks moving here. I think Lucas and Laughn are nervously sitting there like, did I make the team too? I mean, the other two team captains have been picked off the board. You guys got to be sitting there just shitting bricks right now. So we're gonna see what Coach has in mind for the rest of his picks here.
Well, they gotta know that they're on the team, so that right away. Steve Jalbert out of the stopper back position. I don't think there's anybody that played that position quite well as he did. Just his ability to get up and back and all over the field, and really incredible about playing. The big thing that I really liked in the middle of the field was like players that could get up and win headers, and especially in hitting targets or scoring goals or redirecting. And Jalbert was really good at that. So I put him at my stopper back. The two midfielders that now I'm setting up in a 4-4-2. My two midfielders were Chris Lozier and Bart Plord. Those two guys were workhorses. Some of you probably didn't know Chris or didn't play with Chris, but he was my leading goal scorer in 87, 88. He basically won the game of our semifinal game down in Camden Rockport. Had a hat trick and just kind of right from the very start, 14 seconds into the game, scored a goal. Just his ability to be all over the field. He was my penalty kick taker, just like Lonnie was. So that I went with him, and Bart was obviously, everybody knows Bart. He was a strong, solid player. Put him in the midfield. Then on the two outside wings, I went with Lucas on the right and Paul Marquis, Ryan Martin on the left. And the reason I put Ryan Martin in there is because of the throw-in ability. And, he was obviously a good goal scorer too. But Lucas and Johnny Lozier could play that right wing. Paul Marquis, Ryan could play the left wing. And then I went with Laughn Berthiaume and Adrian Marquis as my two strikers. I thought that would be I mean, there's no weakness on any part of the field. We're quick, we're fast, out of the backs, solid in the midfield, good goalkeeping, score a million goals. So that's basically my fantasy team of 11. I do want to tell you though, I had like 27 names that I could have put here, and not lose a step. We could have substituted anyone. We just had that many good players. But that was my base 11 right there, starting 11.
Charlie.
Yep.
Charlie, you're going to have a lot of action, though, because you got Lucas and Paul Marquis on the outside mids. They're not coming back to help you.
Not at all. And Ethan on top of that. Holy crap.
Yeah, you got me up there cherry picking for sure.
So let's give Coach Minz all-time favorite player. Do you have a single choice?
All time?
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
All time?
No.
You gonna do that to him?
No.
Just
way.
pick me. Make it easy. Just pick me, Coach. Pick me, Coach.
That's ruthless, Charlie.
I'll tell you, every single year held something magical about it. All the years that I coached, and I could probably I could give you probably the minute and the time and what they were wearing and everything else about each one of those seasons. They were all really, really good.
Best team. Who do you feel was top to bottom, 1 through 11, the best team you ever coached? It's tough because Lonnie's team was great. Obviously Charlie won. We were number 1. Obviously Charlie and I's team fell apart. A little unlucky. I'm not going to go there, but that first team you had. What do you think is top to bottom? Do you think the best team or the team that had the most potential out of all of them that you had?
Now, are you asking me the teams that you picked? What's the best one, or the team that?
No. Just like the '89 team, the '84 team, '97 team. Like what turns out as top to bottom was probably that I had. I mean, obviously the first group, the Paul Marquis, Charlie Albert, Chris Lozier. I mean, that's a good team. Lon's team was fantastic. What would you say? What do you think is your best?
I don't know. That's a real tough one. I mean, I can name you all 5 that we went to the Eastern Maine Championship, and obviously we didn't win it, but all 5 of those years, 88, 93, 95, all of them, every one of those teams were, in my mind, probably we brought it up to a team that I thought was the best team then. And then 2 or 3 years later, we'd have another team that was just awesome. So it's tough for me to pick one overall team. And I'm going to renege on that and just say probably the 5 years that we went to the Eastern Maine Championship were the 5 best teams that I had.
And you guys accept that? You guys okay with that?
Gotta let the accolades speak for themselves.
I played on 3 of those
sense.
teams, and the funny part is the 3 teams that I played on that we went to the Eastern Maine final, I wouldn't be able to say which was the best team either.
Yeah, it's tough because everybody has their own. You remember the game down in Ellsworth, Lonnie? Were you that game where Doug Taggart hit the goalpost and knocked it back about 3 feet? Yeah, he hit us, and that was that. That
get picked tonight.
What's that?
Charles, what did you say, Charles? We lose Charles.
Canadian will have
didn't get brought up tonight. He was on the list.
Doug Taggart.
Taggart didn't get picked.
Yeah, he's strong workhorse. But anyway.
Yeah, he was on my list too, actually. That Eric gave me.
Yeah,
Okay,
those 5 years were, incredible for me. So I would have to go with. I just can't pick one of them because each one had its own merits.
That's fair enough, but we've got to pick a winner for tonight here. So we got to pick a winner when it comes to these fantasy teams, and what better guy to pick than the coach himself. So we're going to run through these teams real quick.
Okay.
And then we're going to do something fun before we get up out of here. So real quick recap for Team Laughn. We got Chad Boucher, Steve Jalbert, Adrian Marquis, Tim Desjardins, Aaron Berthiaume, Ben Collins, Carl Abbey, Danford Plord, Thurston Vazin, Glenn Lamar, Brad Courier. solid
Jesus,
work
that's a tough team.
from an experienced coach. He knows how to put together a team.
That's Laughn.
Team Lucas. We got Brad Saucier, Corey Tibbs, Bart Plord, Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, John Lozier, Tom Pelletier, Mike Charette, Paul Marquis, Tom Levac, and Charlie Albert. So just a ton of great names as we run through this here. Team Charlito. We got Cody Daigle, Kurt Levac, Aaron Willett, Nick Tibbs, John Smith, Phil Labby, Burby Time, Dennis Sear, Chris Lozier, and Bert Boucher. And then finally for Team Ethan, we've got JJ Panette, Derek Plord, Carlos Martinez, Antoine Lamar, Corey Burgoyne, Carson Hartman, Steve Perro, Raymond Bouchard, Jared McBride, Jared Boucher, and Ben Bouchard. So, Coach, you got to pick a winner out of those four teams.
Okay.
Who's going to win the fantasy tournament here?
Okay, I'm gonna narrow it right down. Give me Lucas's and Lonnie's team again.
All right, Lucas and Lon. For Team Lon, we got Chad Boucher, Steve Jalbert, Adrian Markey, Tim Desjardins, Aaron Berthiaume, Ben Collins, Carl Labby, Danford Plord, Thurston Vizin, Glenn Lamar, and Brad Courier. That was Team Lon.
Okay.
Team Lucas, we got Brad Saucier, Corey Tibbs, Bart Plord, Ryan Martin, Richard Plord, John Lozier, Tom Pelletier, Mike Charette, Paul Markey, Tom Levac, and the doctor, Charlie Albert.
Tough.
You ready?
Oh, we're all sitting here. We're ready to go.
We're ready.
We want to know.
Looking at both of these, really, really, really close. They're both really close, but I would give Lonnie's team just a little bit of an edge, just because of the strength of character.
That's 2 weeks in a row.
That's 2 in a row. Hey Tommy, let's stop inviting Lon to this. We've had a good run with him.
If you had picked Lucas's team, then I was going to ask, what if the coaches were playing?
What if the coaches were playing?
Yeah, so what if Lucas played for Team Lucas and Lon played for Team Lon?
Yeah.
Lucas drops the fourth.
I didn't have to go there. I didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
I'll give you the edge, Lonnie. I'll give you the edge.
Totally different.
What was it about? What was it about Team Lon? What was it about Team Lon that gives him the edge?
Well, I think he had a great combination of the legend players that were really good at that time, and then all the speed and the power from the younger generations that were not only goal scorers, but they were solid at each one of their positions. I think that what probably just gave it a little bit of an edge.
Is that what gave him the edge, or is it the phone calls that he made to you earlier this week that gave him the edge here?
That $50 check. That was the
Canadian money
comes out. Look at that.
No, it had nothing to do with that. I just when you called off a few of the players, especially, I mean, you can't say enough about the guys that were before I was coaching, but those players added on to anybody's team really are going to make a normal team into a state championship team. So I think that's what kind of did it for me.
And I know for Charles and Ethan, they don't even care that they weren't even in the final two. They're just happy they made your all-time team. Those guys are tearing up over there. They're just so proud. Charlie's gonna run upstairs and tell Amanda here after this is done. He can't wait to run upstairs. He's so happy right now. All right,
Coach might have thrown me a bone, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't because you guys are on the program. I and you can ask my wife about this. After Lonnie called me, I sat down and I wrote this out and I thought about it and I kept writing out and I'd scratch off things and I had a list of about 50 and then I tried to narrow it down. So to get down to that 11 guys is just because I feel fortunate that I've had a chance to coach many, many really good soccer players.
Absolutely.
So it was really tough for me. So to put those guys together, it wasn't a favor for anyone. It was just what I really felt.
It was
like
really an unfair question too. That's one of the toughest questions to answer, right
That
there.
is.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell you what, that team is winning state championships right there, though.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get up out of here, we're gonna do something fun. So they always say, a great coach can coach anybody to victory. A great coach can impose his will and his style and turn any team into champions. So Charlie's got a shit ton of names on his board, but what we're gonna do here is you guys are gonna draft Coach Minzy a team real quick of straight ringers, and we'll see if Coach Minzy could coach this team to a playoff berth. So we're just going to go in order. We'll start with Laughn. We'll go Laughn, Lucas, Charles, Ethan until we get 11 guys. Straight ringers. Question is, could Coach Minzy coach this team to a playoff berth? Laughn, who are you giving first ringer?
Can I take somebody and put them in a position?
Yeah, do whatever you want. I'm open to whatever here.
All right, so I'm gonna go in the goal. Lucas Levesque.
Oh.
Hey, you know what? You might get over there that I'll tell you that much.
Lucas, are you even capable? Are you even capable of playing goal or what?
My hands are money.
All right, Luke.
Jumping and doing
all right.
Anything athletic.
Minz is already like, oh shit. Fuck, I got. All right, Lucas. Who are you gonna draft?
Look, I'm gonna tell a quick little story on this one here. This guy was a pretty good player. Had some speed to him. Had a wall of grass. But this guy. So it's my first varsity experience. We're playing Caribou. Caribou has this kid who's just a little bit on the meathead side. He'd punch himself and he'd do all sorts of stuff. Coach, I don't know if you remember Eddie Cowan. Do you remember Eddie Cowan from Caribou?
I know that name.
I was a little off, and I was petrified. I was like, I'm like 95 pounds on a good day, and I'm like, man, this guy's crazy. Like he's gonna break me out there. And I go over and I remember like, man, there's something wrong with this guy. And Kenny Marquis goes, watch this. And he wrecks this kid. And he gets up and he kind of starts laughing to himself. And the guy says something to him. And next thing you know, the guy gets the ball again. And Kenny comes in again and wrecks him again. And but Kenny was just one of those guys. Kenny was a good player. Kenny was one of those guys that would just always go after the biggest guy on the field and just screw with him, just for the simple fact of, seeing if he can get in his head and pick a fight and everything else. But I give you Kenny can do some, but give you a little bit of toughness as well.
All right. So we're gonna go to Charlito. Who are you gonna give Coach Minzy here?
I'm gonna go with the only professional athlete maybe to come out of Fort Kent. He's a lefty. He's a professional wrestler. I'm gonna go with Vaughn Taggart.
A great one.
Okay. All right.
Gotta get Vaughn on the podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, Ethan, who are you going with?
He's got some speed. He's got a great soccer IQ. But he's going to be a challenge up front. At forward, I'm going with Charles Bard.
Oh boy,
that's tough
Charles,
on corner kick.
Charles, you're okay with that though, Charles? That's how you started off your career, right? Back in the day, you were a striker.
One of the best goal scorers I know. Oh, here's the story how I went from offense to defense. Coach Minz needed a defender freshman year. Anyone want to play defense? Yeah, I'm a striker. I'll play D. Boom. The rest is history. Thanks, Minz.
We're going to go back to the top.
Year was when everybody was still 5'5".
We'll go back to the top. So you guys will each make 3 picks for men. So Laughn, back to you.
All right. So Lucas is going to need a little bit of help back there, and so he's going to need a sweeper that is tough. Not only is tough, but looks tough. So we're going with Big Red Tyler Berthiaume.
Holy shit. The muscle.
Hey, you better hope the sun's not out because that's going to burn his skin. He's not going to be able to play that well.
Oh, fuck.
So, Coach, how are you feeling after the first 5 picks? Are you confident with this team? Can you coach this team to victory so far, or what?
Well, I don't know, kind of weak in the goal. I don't know.
Yeah,
The rest I can handle.
All right, so we're going back to where we at? Lucas?
Yeah, this guy primarily played center back through the years, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him up front. I'm going to make him shave his back, but I think Bert Raymond could be a pretty good forward for you. Once we lose
Bert Raymond.
15 pounds of hair.
Oh.
So I'm going to go at him himself, Bert Raymond, up front.
Up front, okay. Charlie, we're back to you here.
Bert Raymond was one of my brother's picks too.
The key to success is having a strong keeper, sweeper, and a stopper. So with Lucas and Tyler, I need a speedster at stopper. I'm going to go with Casey Bushi. He'll be marking people.
Took my pick.
In those fluorescent cleats, I think he's going to get the job done.
Dream team right here. Ethan, we're back to you.
Well, he took my pick. Let's see. Who am I going to go with? You know what? I'm going to go with what do we need for positions right now?
A lot.
What's open for
We got a
positions?
goalie, we got a sweeper, we got a stopper, we got a striker, we got Bert Raymond up front. So I mean, we got a couple more positions to fill in here. I don't know where Lucas, where'd you put Kenny?
Kenny can play out on the flank. Give him some speed out on the wing.
You need an enforcer. You need an enforcer out there. You need somebody that's going to be able to throw a shoulder into some people. You don't really have anybody out there that's too big right now. We need Dustin Neto on this team.
Dustin Neto, great pick. Duddy on the team. This is good. We're going back to line, so you guys each get one more pick here for
Okay,
for
so
Coach Minzy's
so
team.
between Lucas and Tyler out back, somebody's got to be able to take goal kicks. Neither one of them can kick it very far, and so I had this guy that was a teammate of mine. He's my older brother's class, and you don't get nicknamed Thunderfoot for nothing. We're going Thunderfoot Paul Plord.
All poured, huh?
Thunderfoot.
With all the speed.
Hey, he had like size 14 feet. I mean, honest to God, he'd kick a ball, and again, you're in practice and you're doing those drills and you're running at the ball, and he's going kickball style. You're getting out of the way.
All right.
Appropriately named Thunderfoot.
So we're gonna go back to Lucas here. Before we do, though, we got our first shout out from somebody watching live right now. We got to shout out Steve Perro, who said him and his wife are laughing their asses off right now. So shout out to Steve Perro for tuning in live and watching Big Time Live here. So we're going back to Lucas. One more pick for you.
I'm going to give an under the radar guy who many people didn't realize was actually a pretty decent player. I guess he had quite the toe kick, but believe it or not, had some wheels. I'm going to go the legend of Eagle Lake, Al Boutot. You throw a big Al Boutot out on the flank. That guy's going to do some damage. So I'm going to give my boy Al some. He coached the Eagle Lake Wrecking Crew up there, middle school, all those years. He's not quite as legendary as Robbie Neto, but believe it or not,
Wow. Things are shaping up great. This might beat Lon's team that he actually drafted here. So we're going back to Charles. Charles, what you got?
What position to Lester? Al Buta was my pick. What's left?
I mean, at this point, you can kind of just fill them in wherever you want. I think our defense is shored up. Maybe one more person up front.
I got to go with the utility player, the Swiss Army knife of basketball and soccer for Kent legend, Terry Rio.
Holy shit.
you can't go wrong with Terry.
No, never go wrong there. So, Ethan, you get one more pick. This is going to be our first person off the bench to come in and give Coach Minzy's team a lift here. Who are you going with?
I mean, he needs some fucking talent on the team, for one thing. I'm gonna actually give him somebody he can work with. I'm gonna give him his daughter, Meg Minzy. He needs some help.
All right.
She should have been a starter.
Yes, so Coach, where does Megan fit in with this team we just drafted for you here?
Probably on his all-time team.
Yeah, they're probably on my all-time team. That's for sure. Way above everybody else mentioned so far.
Yeah, I got a story about her. I can't remember where we were. Shit, I think it was one of our longer road trips, so somewhere in the Bangor area. I think John Bapst, and it was one of those trips where it was the boys varsity, girls varsity, and she had 2 PKs that game. The first one, she put it left pocket, perfectly placed, and I mean, usually when you get your second PK, you think maybe I'll switch it up a bit because the goalie might be on to me. She went right back to the left pocket, but even cut it a little closer and kissed it off the friggin' post. I've never seen somebody with so much ball control. It was unbelievable. Right off the post.
I still remember that game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, Coach, I'm curious. This team we just drafted for you, where do they rank with some of the teams you coached? Can you coach these guys to a playoff berth?
Okay, middle school or primary?
All time.
And they could make it in Class C.
Maybe Ashland JVs. we could possibly go 500 with them.
I like it. Optimism right there. So we're coming up on the end of the episode here. So I'm going to give our guys one last chance to tell either a Minzy story or anything they want before we get up out of here. We're coming up on actually 2 hours. 2 hours flew by. I don't know about you guys, but we're coming up on 2 hours here. Time flies when you're having fun, but we're going to give you guys one last chance to say something. It could be about Coach. It could just be about your soccer days, but I'll give you guys the floor. We get up out of here, starting with the winner of tonight's fantasy draft, Laughn.
Yeah, I'd love to have a story just to roast Mins, but really it's just going to be I mentioned earlier I played on 3 teams that went to the Eastern Maine final, and as I got older and older and older, I wanted to be that guy on the team to bring a state championship home. Being so close so many times, I knew he had been that close more often than I was. And as a player, wanting it so much for somebody else, it wasn't like I only wanted it for myself. I wanted it for him. But that was the leadership and the team chemistry, the team culture, all those things that as a coach I've grown up and realized that are important. I mean, those are things that I had early. I had great leaders, great mentors, and I appreciate everything you did for me.
Thank you, Lonnie. That means a lot. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Coach, I know they asked the question earlier, but can we say, is Lonnie your favorite? I mean, with him winning tonight, with you just appreciating what he said, is Lonnie your favorite? I mean, it's okay if you want to say it.
I'll tell the same thing I tell my daughters. I have no favorite.
Okay, I got the text he just sent me.
We're going to go on to Lucas here. Lucas, your chance to close things out here. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'll echo that sentiment that Lonnie said. For us going through, they had come so many teams before us had come so close, and we knew if things bounced our way, we had a good chance. And the win it for men's was definitely real, and that was something that like Lon talked about is when you care so much to win it for somebody else, that's a rare thing, especially in coaching. And that was how much respect we all had for playing for Coach Minzy and for the program and for the history of every of all the guys that we played before. So I know for me, Lon's group was kind of our generation, and Lon's group before him was Aaron and his friends, and before that it was the Paul and Charlie and Chris Lozier. So there's just so many generations and so much rich history with that. But we all just wanted to bring home a state title for Fort Kent, and it's glad that it eventually happened. but switching gears, end on a funny story. Lon talked about, wrecking people in middle school phys ed. I'll never forget. Minz was cutting the ball and slicing and dicing in phys ed class, and he stepped and he kind of lost his balance and went down. And Bradley Pontier was like pointing at him and laughing. And 30 seconds later, Bradley got it. Next thing you know, Minz comes in and just whacks him. And Bragg is flying. I mean, he's got grass stains. He's got like dirt coming out of his mouth. I think his nose is bleeding and stuff. And we're all like, last time you laugh at Minz, Brad, And so I think Bradley learned his lesson not to laugh at Coach Minz, because pretty soon it's going to be him eating dirt. So. But that was just the competitiveness. We love that. That's something we fed off, and we can all look back. All four of us can look back and enjoy the times we spent. And Coach, we really appreciate everything you did for us.
Yeah, thank you. It was magical. I will tell you that right now.
Yeah, Coach. My last question for you in regards to Lucas. I know he talks about the competitive nature and the competitive spirit that you kind of built your programs around. Did you ever get just frustrated with Lucas and his lack of effort to get back on defense and stuff like that? Did you ever were you ever just like, God damn it, Lucas?
There used to be every game you'd hear this god awful scream coming from the side of our bench, and it would be "Get back!" and it was always towards Lucas. So that's what he thought his name was for the longest time, was "Get back." But
Coach, I thought we were playing a 4-3-3. You didn't tell me I was the outside mid in the 4-4-2. So.
Yeah, that's your new position.
So I would keep you at keeper so you don't have to get back.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna cherry pick.
Saving balls like this.
Oh, sure.
All right, we're gonna get to Big Bro Charles here. Charles, I mean, it looks like you're ready to go to church right now. I'm pretty sure you're ready to preach here your love for Coach Minzy. What are your final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Oh, good.
When I think back, the warm-up tape, that was epic. Just the energy that brought to the field. The circle before you take the field, bring it in here, the huddle. Minz always led that huddle. It was fired up. But really, when I think about it, I'm confident in my skills. But when I look back at this list, I don't even belong on this list. Like, this is a group of athletes that have run through Fort Kent. I'm not on that level. There's a lot of pride. It's hard being away from home because my daughters will never understand like hometown pride, the respect that was just generated during that era. I don't belong with Lucas and Laughn. Like, they're in a class of their own. I don't belong with Coach Minz. So much pride, a lot of hard work. Happy to be part of this podcast, just as my brother's plus one, basically. So, Coach Minz, Laughn, Lucas, Ethan, you're some good people. This is good, man. This is great. I love it. One love to everyone.
Thank you, Charlie. That was really nice.
Coach Vince, can we make Charles feel better before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Does he belong on that list?
No, Charles belongs not only on that list, but he should put his name near the top of that list, because he earned every single bit that he played. And I said it right from the very start. Matter of fact, I remember lining those guys up in middle school when they were in 8th grade, and we had just graduated, probably 15 seniors. And I told them, I said, if you guys commit and you play strong, you're going to play both the JV level and you're going to play the varsity level. And by the time you're juniors, you're going to be in the Eastern Maine Championship and state final. And Charles never looked back, and he became a starter early, and he earned his spot. Nobody gave it to him. He deserves that number one spot. He's a good player.
Thank you, Coach. Nice words.
Charlie's full of shit. He's not on the list. I saw your list, Charles. You wrote your name first.
Top of the list on every one of them.
And real quick before we get about, I gotta show my big brother some love. So I just happened to be Googling Fort Kent soccer to try to get some information prior to this episode, and I went on Bangor Daily News and I just Googled I searched Fort Kent soccer, and there was an article on there. I think it was your sophomore year, the game that Minzy talked about, the Orno game, and all the offside traps you set. The article is still on Bangor Daily News. It's in the paper. People can find that. Shout out to Big Bro, my man right there.
That was awesome.
Hey.
And Charles, real quick, what was your nickname in high school?
Puffball, the sweeper.
All that golden, all those big golden locks. Charlito,
Now it's
puffball,
Charlito,
Super Bowl.
Fort Kent's finest.
My guy.
Life is good, my friends. Good times.
All right. And Mr. Big Time also. The reason why it's called Big Time. Shout out to Charles. We're going to move on to Ethan. Ethan, your final thoughts before we get up out of here.
Oh, man, honestly, I can't think of a teacher or coach that had a bigger impact on what it meant to be a leader and just instilling the camaraderie with your peers and everything. It's when you say play for men's, it's a real thing. Like you want to win for yourself, but it was like when you played for men's, you just wanted that success. You wanted to play for men's. You wanted to win for men's. And I can't think of a better instance when I think we were down at home 2-0 to Van Buren of all teams. You never want to lose to Van Buren, especially at home. And I had a PK and I was lining the ball up. I stepped back and I was about to kick, and Minzy yells. He says, "Ethan, fucking bury it." I'm like, trust me, Minz, the last thing I want to do is miss this PK right now. So, and I did bury it, but we ended up coming back and winning 3-2. And I remember at the end of the game, Minz was like, he had us huddled up and he says, "Guys, you played your asses off. You had me really worried there for a second. Don't ever fucking do that again." But it was so true. It's all we wanted to do was win for men's, and you really taught us what it meant to be a leader and to appreciate our teammates and to appreciate each other. So hats off to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. So before we get up out of here, we're going to let Minz take the floor, but I think I didn't get a chance to play for Coach Minz, but I had him as a phys ed teacher. I had him as a middle school basketball coach, just a great mentor that touched the lives of a lot of individuals just in Fort Kent in general. So shout out to Coach Minz. We've been wanting to get him on the podcast for so long. We went for 2 hours. We might have a spinoff and do a solo episode with Coach Minz. We're going to try to work that. And maybe try to work that into getting Megan on, because Megan deserves an episode in her own right, as Ethan highlighted. So just a talented coach, a talented father, a talented teacher. So thank you to Coach Minz. But before we get up out of here, Coach Minz, the floor is yours. You can say the last words before we get up out of here.
Well, I was kind of skeptical about what was going to happen here, but I have enjoyed, like you said, 2 hours have gone by, and it's just been, I didn't even notice it. It was almost like it's been 15 minutes. It's been to recap and to rejoin all those years and those memories. Those were, for me, my coaching years in Fort Kent were probably the best and the most magical years that I can remember. And I mean, we've gone through a lot of years and genres together. When kids were just little, coming up and watching the older guys playing at Fort Kent and just emulating, like, I want to be there. I want to play like that. And that was what it was like for me. When I came in, there were just great players, and I just wanted to keep going with that whole aspect. And to be able to have a cast of characters and players like that are here tonight, and all of the guys that I've coached over the years, have each and every one of them have had an individual impact on me. I can still vividly remember a lot of things about games, special things, snapshots from all the years, and it's just because of all of your hard work and all of your what you've done for not only for me but for the Fort Kent soccer program. I remember one year we had 65 players going out for soccer. We had like 30 on the JV team. It was just unbelievable, and people just wanted to play soccer. And it was, I was just like, those are the best years that I've ever had. So I wanted to thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for letting me coach you guys. I think it was perfect. So, and again, some other time.
I like it. So, Coach, does this mean you're going to do a follow-up? We're going to get a solo podcast with just yourself and tell your story?
Absolutely. I'd love to. That would be great.
Awesome.
Anytime you like.
That's awesome.
Real
You
quick,
realize that you just had Laughn Berthiaume, Lucas Levesque, Charles Bard, and Ethan Raymond silent for 4 minutes. We just had this. We just respect, man. We didn't speak. We listened.
yeah,
So much.
It's hard to do.
Actually, I want to kind of give a teaser as to what the solo podcast would be like. But so before we get out of here, and I just checked the numbers. Hey guys, I think before we went online, I asked what's the over under for viewers we're going to get. I said 12. We got 18 right now. We got 18 live, so we're doing something right. But I bet you that the follow up numbers are going to be huge. But real quick, my little teaser for the Coach Minzy solo podcast. Everyone knows you for Adidas suits and Samba shoes. What was the whole thought process behind the wardrobe? What went into it? I mean, that's just as legendary as your coaching style itself as your wardrobe. So what went into your wardrobe?
Yeah.
Don't forget the Oakley sunglasses.
Oakley sunglasses.
Yeah. My wife put together my whole ensemble, so I didn't take any credit for that. But no, it was basically that all came from soccer camps. Everything from I watched other coaches, what they had and what they were wearing, and a lot of that came from there. Early years was a lot of coaches coaching around the state and what they were wearing. That's basically what I chose myself. So
I like it.
That was it.
I got one more question for the guys before we get up out of here. We used to do this early on. Like Laughn was season 1, Ethan was season 1, Charlie was season 1. We always ask this question, and Charlie just kind of triggered this question here. So I'll go around the room. Charles, what were you drinking tonight for tonight's episode?
Wow. I had vodka tonic in this one. I had coffee brandy in this one. And a clear whiskey on the rocks on this one. Who's next?
Ethan, what were you? What was your drink of choice tonight?
I'm a Scotch guy. I was drinking out of this bottle of Glenfiddich right here.
Oh man, high class.
Like got about half of it gone.
Lucas, what was your drink of choice tonight?
I just stuck with Modelo with the coronavirus.
I almost had Modelo.
Switched gears with the Mexican beverages and rolled with Modelo.
Laughn, can you say? I mean, I know you got an image to protect. You're a teacher. You're a coach.
That's okay. I'm gonna go out on a limb. Fran used to drink the Natty Lights, and I've stuck in the Natty Light family. I'm with the Natty Light seltzer tonight.
There you go.
And Coach, do you care to share what you were sipping on tonight, or do you want to pass on that?
No, local brewery down here, Shipyard Brewing. I had a couple of summer ales.
Nice, great choices all around.
Cheers and send us out, Tom. Cheers to
all.
That? Little cheers for everyone and send us out, brother.
All right, little cheers to everyone can put their glasses up. Thank you for everyone who tuned in to the very first live episode of Big Time the podcast. I think we're on to something here. We're having a good time with these videos, with these live videos. Our cast of characters. I think we could very easily do a second episode with the same cast and crew. So we'll see what's next. I think we're going to try to go weekly with this. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Coach Minzy for coming in and giving his stuff as well. This has been by far at the top of the list of episodes that we've done here on Big Time. So thank you for everyone for listening. Thank you to WFK TV, Channel 4 in Fort Kent, Maine, for getting us out live through their channels as well. Tune in next week for next week's episode. But for now, that's it. You guys have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, everybody. See you guys.
Cheers.
I'm still here.